Hello and welcome back to Project 380, and in this video I'm making a custom exhaust for the Mk1. So yes, today the Mk1 is getting a custom catback system using some Profusion exhaust parts. Now there's a few reasons why the Mk1 is getting a custom exhaust. The first reason being the exhaust on this is still standard. I don't know how old it is, but you know they do like to rot out pretty quick. And I'm getting a little bit bored of the standard sound. Now the main big reason for this being a custom exhaust, rather than one I can just buy off the shelf and put it on like a Malian exhaust, will become apparent in the upcoming videos. But before we get started, let's hear what this sounds like with a standard exhaust on it. Yep, pretty standard sounding. Let's get this jacked up, rip the standard exhaust off and make something cool. If only there was some way of raising the car up a little bit quicker so I could get the jack under. Honestly, it's a massive pain getting this thing up on jack stands, but it's finally off the ground. Let's rip that standard exhaust off. So even though I've got a nice Miltech tip on this, this is still the standard exhaust. Someone just said my exhaust looked like a pea shooter and I had a spare Miltech tip sitting around, so I just welded it on to look cool. But because this is the standard exhaust, it's all one piece right up to the cap. So all I've got to do is unbolt them two bolts there, slightly drop this bracing out of the way, and the standard exhaust should come straight out. Just once I used the impact gun. And look at all this rust that fell off. I'm not ashamed to admit my car is rusty. I know it's rusty, but I still love it. Oh dear. Now the only thing holding this exhaust in, apart from a little bit of rust, is the exhaust rubbers. And to help remove them easily, there is a tool you can buy. This makes light work of removing the exhaust from the rubbers. I'll leave a link to these in the description down below. Yeet. With the old exhaust out of the way, it's time to start planning the new exhaust. So the plan is to come from that flange there, a slight kick over to the left, through to the diff, a couple of pie cuts round the axle, a 90-degree out. Now this is the part where I needed a custom exhaust. I need this back box to sit as far over to the right hand side as possible, as I need all the space over here for this blurred out component. I am also keeping the standard cat for now. Hopefully in the near future I'll make a sports cat for it. But as you can see, I've bolted my stainless steel 2-bolt flange from Profusion exhaust straight onto the cat, and I've slid a pie cut in it. Now I'm going to test fit a straight bit of pipe from here, get that pie cut at the right angle and tack it to the flange. So I've just tacked a pie cut onto the end of a length of straight. 2 pie cuts were too much and 1 was too little, so this pie cut is going to sit in the flange at a little bit of an angle. That's sitting pretty much where I want it. It's going to come nicely between the diff and the subframe, and with a couple of pie cuts that'll clear the axle and the subframe bracing nicely. So I think what I'm going to do now is tack that pipe onto the flange and take it from there. So that's from the flange all the way up to the diff and subframe tacked together. I've got some nice clearance on that axle and some nice clearance on the subframe. I'm now going to tack on a 90-degree elbow over here, which is going to lead into the back box. And once I've tacked that on, we can play around with the back box positioning. I've taken a little bit of time off of camera to put that back box exactly where I want it. I'm using a double offset back box. It means it goes into the back box off center one side and out of the back box offset the other side. I'm not sitting this back box like you would typically see a back box sat. I've actually got it tucked up there at a little angle. And it's given me all the space I need over here. It's clearing the boot nicely and it's clearing the subframe. And it's going to lead me nicely to the exit at the bumper. Now, the way I've got this held in place is a little bit sketchy, so I'm going to be tacking this 90-degree elbow to the back box off of camera. That's all tacked on now. And also off of camera, I've tacked on the exit elbow and installed some nice new exhaust poly bushes, ready to make some hangers. Now, to work out where these hangers are going to go, I grabbed some old bits of brake pipe, bent them to the right shape so they sit nicely on the exhaust. So then I can transfer this to the stainless steel bar, like so. Now all I've got to do is tack it onto the exhaust. All the hangers are just tacked on. Let me tell you, it's difficult to tack weld with a TIG welder underneath a car, just on some axle stands. But now the moment of truth to let the axle stands go and let the exhaust hang by itself. Well, that held up pretty good. I know the exhaust isn't quite finished, as I haven't finished the tip coming out of the bumper, but right now I'm going to take the exhaust off of the car and fully weld it. So in theory, if I weld this now, the exhaust might shift with the heat of the weld, which will mean the tip will be in a different position. So if I fully weld the exhaust and let it settle, then I can finally determine the tip position. So I'm going to try to remove it from the car without breaking any of the tack welds. And now it's just a case of welding it up. Well, I'm not quite sure how much footage I got because my camera overheated, but the exhaust is fully welded up now. So I'm going to chuck it back on the car and start building myself an exhaust tip. All back on the car now, and that's looking really good. I'm not going to lie, it's pretty hard to install because these new poly bushes are really tight. And I'm quite lucky there wasn't a lot of flex in the exhaust while I was welding it up. It's still lined up pretty good with the bumper. So now, it's time to make the tip. Now, I was having a real hard time deciding on what tip I want on this. I don't want something too big, and I don't want something that's going to take up all this space in the bumper, as I don't want to have to deal with a rattling exhaust tip. And I'll be honest, I still can't decide. So just like the Mark II, I'm going to weld on a V-band, so in the future I could change tips depending on what I want on the day. So I'm going to get that V-band tacked on there, have a little bit of a straight pipe come out, and I've got a couple of pie cuts left, so I think I'm going to do a little turn down, just sticking out of the bumper. So I've decided to weld the two pie cuts together first. That'll help me determine the length of the pipe I need to come out of that V-band. But I just wanted to take a second to show you guys why I use Profusion exhausts. This isn't a paid promotion, by the way, I just really like Profusion exhausts. So these pie cuts come in a bag, and straight out of the bag, there's no deburring, filing, or cleaning needed. Just look how good these cuts are. Absolutely perfect join. All you've got to do is wipe these down with acetone and you're good to go. Again, this isn't a paid promotion, I just really like Profusion. Let's get this tip welded. if you are going to be welding a V-band, make sure you've got both halves clamped together. This will eliminate most of the warpage. But with that welded up, the exhaust is done, so let's chuck a fresh gasket on the cat and get this exhaust fitted. So that is the exhaust on and done. Now you may have noticed I didn't put a center resonator in this, and the back box is smaller, so hopefully it's not too loud as it is my daily driver. But let's start it up and see what it's like. Please don't be too loud. That's pretty good. Just a little bit of rasp. Other than that, it's deep and pretty good. So if my Ricer maths is correct, that's added at least 100 horsepower. Let me know what you think of the new exhaust in the comments down below, and why not have a guess what I've created all that space underneath for. Like, share, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh dear.